You are listening to Kaisers Kastle.
Hey folks, welcome to Kaisers Kastle. About to have a good time today. We're going to discuss something that's near and dear to my heart. And I'll tell you why. This could be the season of the witch. I will get in depth with this. I first want to give you a little background on... I had to do 2 episodes because I had an emergency call yesterday. But it's on the who, what, where, when, why, and how. Okay? The 5 W's, the 1 H. You need to listen to that so you understand what an investigation and an investigator has to go through. The process of finding the facts. Not opinion, facts. Now, mostly everybody who knows me, and since my channel's so small, most of you do know me, know that I was a former Fed. I also served in the Army and the Marine Corps. I'm currently still a contractor. I still do things. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of what I know, but I can't get into a lot of detail on stuff. The reason that I'm questioning the Syrian attack, it runs twofold. And by the way, yesterday I figured out how to watch my chat room. So I'm doing that now. So if you guys chat, I'll try to respond. So what's going on is, you guys remember about a year ago the same thing happened. And with the new footage, what we're seeing, they're still wearing their little vest. They're not wearing their white helmets now. But it's still our newsra. If you look on their back strap, the little patch they got, like their motorcycle gang emblem, right? It's still the same, almost the same type of patch. They just changed, instead of the triangle, to like the Syrian shape of the country. So, but you see, they realized most people in the West don't read Arabic. So that's kind of the funny thing about this. And we also don't know if this is old footage from the last time they pulled this, which has been debunked. And if I put a link in there to Red Ice, they did probably the best on the last time Syria pulled this. And they even have the clip of the interview with Assad. I would play it here, but the problem is there's other stuff in there, and I'm afraid to get a copyright strike. So, hey, how's it going, Wilhelm? So, what I'm saying is, give you a little backstory. First, we know that Syria, at one point, because there's a general that was an Iraqi general who defected, he was an Air Force general, who made flights to get rid of a lot of Saddam's chemical supplies. And guess where they went? They went to Syria. We also know that the Russians, the last time, verified that there was no chemical weapons left in Syria. That happened. And just like with the Russians wanting verification for the attack in London, and yet nobody would send them samples. No, it was not 2013, the first attack that I'm talking about. Wilhelm's asking a question. It was just last year. Last year about the same time. And I don't think that's coincidental, and I don't think it's coincidental that it was the first day of Bolton coming on board that this attack happened. Hopefully that answered the question for you. Now, getting back to what I was saying. They did not give them a sample. The UK did not provide a sample to Russia to prove to Russia that it was indeed and in fact there. Like I said in my videos, like I said, you got to listen to my who, what, where, when, and why, and how. you have to realize that chemists and all that stuff, even during the first Gulf War, they were able to find out if oil coming from, let's say, Turkey or coming from Syria was actually Iraqi oil by its chemical composition. Think about the leaps and bounds of technology today. Okay, that's the first Gulf War, 1990 and 91. I was there. We also had the first chemical weapons attack. It's called the Jebel incident. Myself and a sergeant of mine who's on my page were the only two Americans besides a naval EOD tech that were on site for the Jebel incident. Look it up. It's I may try to put it in the show notes after I'm done with this. But the British are the only one who wrote about it. The Americans classified it. Now, that was actually a nerve agent attack. And it's one that the Patriots didn't blow out of the sky. It actually landed on the jetty of Ras Al Jabal. It went in between the fore and aft mastheads of the Cape Florida that was loaded with MLRS, multiple launch rocket system. And we were the first two on site. And I'm not going to get into that story. It's a whole long story, and I may do a program on that alone. So anyways, we now know that the UK have been provocative with the Russians. We know that DOJ, we know that FBI and the CIA, Deep State, have not only proven that justice is not blind, because they're not even given the illusion anymore that they are, impartial. They are moving with purpose. They are going after a person, not a crime. So justice is not blind anymore. It's dead, and it's starting to bloat. So if you have illusions that there's justice, wipe them away. First day of Bolton saying we have an attack. It's a big crisis. I don't think that's a misnomer. I'm telling you, this is what I'm seeing now. And the thing about it is, even with Russia, even with the U.S., and this would have been 2005, yeah. Ras Al Jabal, they're not Ras Al Jabal, it was Ras Al Kut in Iraq when I was contracting there. We were on a little compound on Camp Delta. It's an old Air Force base, and it's very close to the Iranian border. That's all I'm really going to get into on that. And working with different things, I was training Iraqi police and supporting them in different manners. But along with my team, it wasn't just me. And I had friends that were there even when I left. And what ended up happening is we had T-walls on one side of our camp because it ran parallel to the road. Well, instead of using the road, the Iraqis needed to move the T-walls. So they came onto the camp proper. Now, the camp had this building. It was a blue building. It had four, looked like chimneys. But when you went in the building, there was nothing on there. Well, one day we had to get on the roof for a reason. Not going to get into it. And I'm up there with my little Surefire looking down, and I'm like, hey, dude, this goes all the way down past the daggone sand. This is a deep air vent. This is not, we wondered what it was, so now we knew. But, they were like, well, just get down away from that. Don't do, okay, whatever, we'll do that. So when they're moving it, the dumb Iraqis come into the compound, and they're moving the T-walls, and they got a crawler. It's a backhoe looking contraption. They got a chain rigged up, and they're moving the backhoe, or the T-walls. And all of a sudden it caves in. Well, everybody's curious, so goes and look, and we're the youngest dudes. I'm not going to say who they were, but they all know who I'm talking about, and they're probably listening. Go down there, and we find these plastic, like shipping liquid and stuff, shipping crate kind of things. You've seen them a lot if you're around farming areas. And they have the metal things that go around them, the little metal grid square piping. And they had American, German, well, not American, but English, and also German writing on them. And remember, there's no weapons of mass destruction, right? There was. They were chemical agent. And of course, we reported it. And the major went into overdrive. ODA came in. Everything went away. Just like I believe it was 300 tons of yellow cake that didn't happen in Iraq, but those ships went to Canada, and all that yellow cake got destroyed. But there was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Okay? These are the lies and the cover-ups. Now, with al-Nusra, they're holding hostages. They don't care about life. Basically, Assad has beaten back with the help of the Russians. I'm putting it all together for you now, folks. Has beaten back al-Nusra and all the different various factions who have been trying to destabilize Syria. They have been doing that, and they've been winning. What sense does it make for Assad, who's winning, to gas his own people? If something doesn't make sense, that's when you ask more questions. That's basic investigative tactics. If something doesn't ring true, then it's not true. And as you all know, for me, the truth will out. I just want the truth. As much as I can get, I get the truth. And I have been wrong even when I thought I had the truth, and I also say I was wrong. That's what separates the men from the boys. This is a game where truth and honor have to be real and have to happen. Now, with that being said, we now see that it doesn't ring true that Assad and Russia are winning in Syria. So what would be the purpose for our involvement in the West? France, the UK, America, the United States? What would be the purpose? Would it be that proposed pipeline that they've wanted to have going from Iraq into friendlier waters for quite a while? I don't know. Would it be the globalist? That want to make sure that they topple another regime for more instability? Remember what happened. So far, everywhere we've gotten involved with, while I may have supported the Afghan and Iraqi invasions, I saw what a new administration can do. And so did you. Where we toppled, not just them, Libya, we tried to do Syria. And there's this Russian kick that the deep state's on. Everything's Ma-Russia. Ma-Russia. Everybody's a Russian agent. I guess I'm a Russian agent. I guess anybody who questions this is a Russian agent at this point. We've gotten to the point of retardation that I honestly don't know if we can come back from. The cultural Marxism is real. These things are happening. And those of you that don't understand this, I really need you to. Because everything the SJWs are doing right now, everything that they're doing right now, it's like a script of nonsense. And yet we're force-fed, like 1984, to be the Winston, to say when there's 4 lights on, there's only 3. Or if there's 5 lights on, there's only 2. The sky's no longer blue, it's purple. These things are absolutely ridiculous. But yet, you have half of the country that will buy into it. Remember when liberals And you remember when communist used to be anti-war? Look, Russia is no longer communist. I think this is the problem that we're having. I'm going to be very frank and honest. Russia is no longer communist. It's an oligarchy for sure, headed by former KGB and GRU guys, even in their states, their client states. That's a fact. I'm not going to deny it. They are also a nuclear power. So we want to go sling and slong and acting like we're the cock of the walk right now. And maybe it is because there is only one singular power. We're no longer a bipolar or tripolar power. We can exert our military force. But who are we exerting it for, actually? Do you think those missiles are going to hit the globalist home state? Do you think they're going to launch them there, or are they going to launch them right here at us? Over something as stupid. Look, Syria is Russia's only warm water port that they can get into 365 days a year. Strategically, besides Cuba, strategically, do you think Russia is going to give that up? Do you think they're going to sacrifice their naval capacity without there being proper respect given or due? And you had, I would say 8 years, but I'll go back 16 years. Shoot, I'll go all the way back to George H.W., where this all really, we were trying to topple the Soviet Union. I get it. I'm a Cold Warrior. See, that's the problem, is I understand a Russian perspective and the Eastern perspective of what was the old communist. I also understand our perspective back then, and I've seen it morph. And I also understand the Arab perspective that's different than a Persian perspective. You see, that's the whole thing. Everybody confuses everybody as just being Arabs. Persians think a whole lot differently. Persia is nothing more than Iran now. The Turkish perspective of the Cold War and the Turkish perspective of now has changed. It's no longer the Ataturk Turkey. It is an Islamist Turkey now. So, with that being said, you really want to trust the dalliances. Now, John Bolton, I really have nothing against personally, but I do have stuff against his policies because he is old school deep state. And I do have a problem with, honestly, I'm going to be frank with you, I have a problem when non-military men are security advisors or corporations like Rand. I'm not going to get into all that crap, but when you have them advising governmental officials, I have a problem with that, because their biases are always heavily laden in. There's very few, I can count them on probably two hands that I know of, that actually know their stuff and will make proper decisions without being biased. To a point. I mean, everybody has their bias. Shoot, I have my bias. I try not to let it cloud my decision making, though. With that being said, do you really want to try this without an investigation? Because in all honesty, this has all the earmarks of false flag. And I know that's a term that's bantied about willy-nilly everywhere. I've seen false flags in real life. I've seen cover-ups in real life. I gave you an example of a couple of them. Not going to get into a lot of examples as what I saw during my Fed time. But I will tell you, just think about two things that I'll tell you about. This is in the homeland. and I'm fairly certain I have the facts correct on this. The Waco, where the Banditos and what was it, Diablos or something, I can't remember the other motorcycle gang, meet for a meeting. Did they have cops there to make sure, you know, nothing happens? No, they had snipers around it on different buildings and stuff. And then when they do all the bullets, they all happen to be .223 caliber, but, you know, all that stuff was shushed up. You know? None of the gang members really were getting it on like that when the violence started, but the shooting started from outside of that rally or that meeting. That's a problem. And it was covered up. Was it a false flag to get guns? Who knows? Remember, Obama was always going to take the guns. He didn't, did he? Second thing, and you know, I'm just talking about what's been in the news, so it's all open source, folks. Second thing I'll talk about, it's famous for its false flagness. It's famous for the cover-up, because a proper investigation, I believe, was never done. And that would be the shooting in San Bernardino and all the ancillary muff fake that went around it. Just like if you look at the Pamela Geller thing that happened, the drawing of Muhammad thing, where you have an FBI agent following these guys going down to that event, and they call it a known wolf. Same thing with San Bernardino, right? But who was the FBI agent following him? Why don't we know this? Why don't we know why he was following them? See, that leads to speculation, which brings in opinion, which destroys facts. So, this is a thing that you really need to think about, that right now I'm seeing, and you should be seeing it too, because it's worrying, because geopolitically, the Russian bear still has fangs and claws. And you're not dealing with a punk. Look, Trump's not a punk. Trump's a hard-ass man. People forget about some of the stuff he did in his past. Guy beating the hell out of another guy with a baseball bat, and Trump gets out of his limousine and gets all up in it. He didn't have to do that. He's got balls that clank when he walks. So does Putin. Putin's the real deal. There's a famous picture you can find on the internet where he's next to Reagan in Russia. Yeah, he got that close to a president. Dressed as a school guy, like a tourist, blonde-headed, all in disguise. When you have two people with big egos, which is good. I want my president to have a big ego. I don't want a wimp. We experienced that for 8 years. But what we do want is there to be a calming, moderating voice. And I don't think Bolton's that voice. So that's why I said this investigation needs to happen. It needs to be moderated. The voice does. Or we will have a season of the witch. And that season has always been, in military parlance, that's the time when you can actually, you won't end all human life. I don't believe God would ever let us destroy the planet completely. But it would curtail life. And what does the Georgia Guidestone say? And who put it up there? Was it the globalist? I don't know. But I do know this. I know that what I'm seeing right now is disturbing. And it needs to be fixed. Do I have the answer? No, I'll be the first one to tell you I don't. I'm glad you sat on my big orange couch, poured yourself a nice cup of coffee, tea, whatever, pop a nice cold brew, some champagne, I don't know, celebrate. Maybe we're celebrating the end of the world as we know it. Who knows? Just watch it. Let's see what happens. With that being said, it's become tiresome. So, you know, this conversation we can have another time afterwards when hopefully calmer heads prevail. But we'll see exactly how it turns out soon, I got a feeling. So with that being said, I guess I have to give my final word. Shuff out. Boomer tech, gotta love it, right? So we'll try that yet again for a proper shuff out.